The alternative to using a solid color for something in the material block is to use the Vertex Colors for it. So you do that, you bring them in by using the keyword ColorMaterial, and then you can use anything for any type of light from these four. So you can use Ambient or Diffuse, although that's not actually documented in the manual currently under ColorMaterial. But this word or keyword is Ambient and Diffuse. So now we're going to be utilizing some yellow vertex colors here and purplish ones elsewhere to provide a tint for the object. And not only can you get a different tint for different parts of the object, which is great for tiling grayscale textures like this, but you can also potentially get objects to batch, if they would otherwise batch but are only different because you need a different material tint, then you can use the vertex colors, tint using, even using a solid color for the whole mesh, and get batching happening. So that's what I think is the most useful thing you can do with that, but be creative and do whatever you want. Then you can also use ColorMaterial Specular, and we'll go ahead and see some very dark blue for diffuse calculation and ambient, and then we'll see up here specular highlights show up, also right over here as we move around, that are based on the vertex colors. And what that could be great for is to provide a specular mask for the object. Instead of using a texture or even the alpha of a texture, you can paint in black where you don't need any highlights, and then you can paint in the color of the highlights that you want elsewhere. Do that all in vertex coloring, so you can save having to do that with the texture. The last option is ColorMaterial Emission, and I think you can think about this in a couple different ways. One of them is a sort of a glow map, so you can have the object emitting different amounts of light and different colors in different places. But you can also think about it as a sort of static light map. So here are the vertex colors as painted. We have turned all the other types of light down to black, so we're not getting any contribution there. But in the vertex colors, we have a highlight here and some other places, and then we have shadows. So you can think about this as a collection of vertex lights that are pre-computed. And then you can add in, on top of that, some dynamic lighting. Let's make this slightly blue. So this light is now emitting a blue light, some blue color, and that could be dynamic. And then that's being added in on top of ColorMaterial Emission, which is now functioning as a sort of static light map. So great way, if you had an object that you wanted a dynamic light on and you were otherwise going to use a light map texture, you can consider using this kind of light map, a vertex colored one. I also believe that ColorMaterial Emission makes the most sense with what I'm about to show you. So if you have ColorMaterial and any option that it takes, but then you turn lighting off, then you're going to see the vertex colors. So here we still have lighting on. We're seeing the vertex colors as painted because there's the main color is black and specular color is black. But if we turn lighting off by commenting out that line, which makes the material block useless now, then we will just see the vertex colors as they were painted without any sort of lighting affecting that. So this is a shortcut when you have lighting off and a ColorMaterial line for using the bind channels block and binding the vertex colors within that block. So let's go ahead and try to use Ambient, ColorMaterial Ambient. We'll go up to the render settings, change the ambient color, and if lighting is off, it does not have an effect. If we go ahead and turn lighting back on, then that will, as you can see, have an effect. So because emission is not affected by render settings or any lights in the scene when lighting is on, I think it matches that behavior when you have lighting off. So that's just my opinion. But yeah, any option will do for ColorMaterial when lighting's off to bind the vertex colors. And one quirk about having lighting on and using ColorMaterial is that vertex alpha is only preserved when you have diffuse. in color material. So let's go ahead and leave it color material emission now. And we'll combine primary alpha. So this mesh does not have vertex color alpha. This mesh in the front, however, does. Now it has a gradient from white to black, but we're not seeing that. If we bind diffuse, however, and have it update, then we'll see that alpha channel. We will also see it if we use ambient and diffuse, but we won't see it if we just use color material ambient. So only if you have some form of diffuse in color material will the vertex alpha come through. Otherwise, it's just going to be white. So just something quirky to know about. I don't know if that's a bug that can be fixed. After Unity 3.0 is finalized, then I'll report this as a bug if it hasn't been fixed at that point. I would like to be able to use, say, color material specular, and then have the alpha channel of the vertex colors affect shininess, because shininess is a value between 0 and 1. Seems to make sense that you'd be able to use a color for that, but there's currently no way that I know of, and no way that I believe is documented, to use the alpha of anything to affect shininess. So I'm also going to request that feature, and that about does it for lighting and color material. Sorry, I forgot to mention earlier that color material shininess does not work. It will result in an error. It is the only thing you can have in the material block that you cannot use with color material.